you so much for joining me on yet another edition of this Outlook. It's State of the State on this channel. I am Sunday Kolawole. Today, our focus would be on the anti-land grabbing law. It's also called the Ondo State Property Protection Bill. It's still a bill in the House of Assembly. A public hearing has been held on it, and then it's expected to become law very soon. And when it becomes a law, what will be the benefit of it for the people? How exactly will it be implemented? These will form the fulcrum of our conversation on the Outlook today. Joining me in the conversation is the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Akure Branch, Onimisi Umar, Barrister at Law. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Let's set the ball rolling. This bill, it's been termed Ondo State Property Protection Bill. Many like to refer to it as anti-grabbing bill. Exactly what is the this intervention going to do for the larger number of people? How well is it going to serve the greatest number of people, the greatest interest of the greatest number of people, and not just a microscopic few privileged people in power?
Thank you so much. Greetings to our viewers at home. I think I must say this going forward, that the law cannot be earlier than now.
Okay.
It is apposite and it is coming at the right time. Of course, it's a fantastic law for me. Okay. And of course, as MBA too, it is a fantastic law for us. When you look at the law, Ondo State Properties Protection Law Bill now, of course, it has passed a certain stage at the House, of course, and I think a day before yesterday, specifically on the 17th, public hearing was held, and we were represented. Personally, I was there. I made 1 or 2 inputs to the law. And may I say this, I had no difficulty in quickly going there to make our position known, because even in the MBA, I had already constituted a committee that will have to look at that aspect of our practice as lawyers. Okay. And of course, it is from experience. So to come to your question, to say that, oh, this law is really going to be of great help or assistance to the general public, particularly the innocent ones that buy lands, and before you know what is happening, another set of human beings are cropping up, showing face from some places. You'll be going in and out of court with a view to recovering your money, no longer the land. So it is really disturbing.
You have lost the land.
Of course, you have lost the land. You have lost the land. So it is now your money you will be after. And of course, before you even talk of I've lost the land, of course, sometimes you must have put up some fight. And even where you have court orders, some of these land grabbers, they have also constituted themselves to, let me call it, a very strong syndicate, such that for you to take possession becomes issue. So these are many more. I've looked into the bill that is currently pending before the House of Assembly. It's a very good law. It has about 15 sessions. Of course, our position too has also, we've submitted our paper.
I am interested in knowing what exactly you were able to pinpoint as a minus that perhaps necessitated the intervention of NBA. What aspect did you question, or you felt there should be something done to this part?
Okay, that's if I will question any part of that law, right? Yes, I looked into the law. Like I told you, on a general outlook, it's a fantastic law. I commend the members of the Ondo State House of Assembly, and I also commend Mr. Governor, because the executive bill number 4, the executive order number 4, is actually dedicated to this bill that is currently in the House. So it means that the legislature and the executive are working together. So I commend that. So, but on flipping through the law, I noticed particularly...
Still a bill, as it's
a bill, rather. Thank you so much. Yes, I noticed a particular section of that law, Section 10, I query it, and I also look at a particular session like that. I think a particular session, there's also a section of the law that I also query, and they are all contained in
query in Section 10. Let's start
Section 10, if you permit me, I want to read out. Okay. They say a professional, Section 10 sub 1 now, shall not in the conduct of his professional duties. They didn't mention a particular professional. They just say a professional shall not in the conduct of his professional duties facilitate a contractual agreement between a contractual agreement will contravene the provisions of this law or any other law.
So you feel that there should be a specific professional named in this regard?
Not
or
really,
perhaps
but
there should be something having to do with some lawyers who of us facilitate documents, or what are you exactly querying there?
I want to believe that is the intendment here. A professional that will facilitate a contractual agreement between landowning and all of that. Of course, they can come up to give me a different understanding, but in my own view, this is targeted
because of the expression contractual agreement.
Contractual agreement. It's an English word. Do you get the point?
Okay.
A community
this
leader,
one,
yes.
this one.
Yes.
Let's deal with this one.
Okay.
If you're querying the contractual agreement, knowing full well that it might be an innuendo focusing legal practitioners.
Yes.
In any case, should the legal practitioner also go against the intendment of the bill as it is now when it becomes law?
Well, you may wish to let me also read what was my position paper as far as this provision is concerned.
Okay.
Number one, you discover that most often as lawyers, parties would have negotiated, agree on price, and most often they've even money has exchanged hands before they come to you as a lawyer. Oh, counsel, I've bought this land. Please kindly help me prepare the documentation. Do you get the point now?
Yeah.
At this level, what the law is trying to cure here wouldn't have been within at our own level. Okay. But if as a lawyer, from this provision, if as a lawyer you go ahead to prepare such an agreement now, of course it will be read to mean that you have facilitated such an agreement and all of that. And now, what does the law say? They say the person has contravened the provision of this law.
Does that not put a burden of due diligence
Yeah.
on that professional, as the bill puts it?
It does.
To be able to be sure of what is inking as a contractual agreement drafter.
Thank you so much. But when you also look at it in practice, if, for example, you approach me, you want to buy a land, I should help you get one.
Very
of course, that burden is there from day one if I would do that.
Okay.
But what have, in the scenario I've just painted, parties have seen themselves, they've gone to inspect the land, they've agreed on price, negotiated.
Does that forecloses due diligence on the part of the lawyer?
Due diligence as to how now?
As to find out, as to make investigations.
Thank you so much. I will appreciate this if we can read the entire law holistically. Do you get the point now? And not only that, we also look at what was the mischief that the law is said or prepared to cure. Do we get the point now? Now, when you look at the long title of that law, I'm sorry, I have to take you back because otherwise, if I answer that your question in isolation, I may be guilty of certain things too. Now, when you look at it, they said a law to prohibit forceful entry and illegal occupation of landed properties, violent and fraudulent conducts in relation to landed properties in Ondo State, and for such purposes connected herewith. Now they've been able to let you know what was on ground and what the House is set to cure by the long title. Then it said this, it should be enacted by this and all of that. The law keep going. The citation is that it is called the Ondo State Property Protection Law 2024. Though it's a bill, but of course that is the long citation. Do you get the point now? Now, that is why in our own position, personally I appeared there, I told you earlier, and the point I was making on the floor there, and of course which I finally reduced into writing, is the fact that this is not only a lawyer affair. All stakeholders must be on deck. Okay. One, the surveyors are there. That's the estate surveyor, the land surveyor, that's the Institute of, is the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors, and many other stakeholders. Of course, the property agents and all of that. All of us.
Will it not be preemptive, therefore, for you to single out lawyers as a professional being referred to in that section.
I did not, we have not read sub 2.
Of course, I know.
Like I told you.
We are still dealing with that.
Yes.
That first
the law too, in interpreting the law, you need to know what comes first, what follows thereafter. And where there are conflicts, of course, the subsequent provisions take precedence. Yes. Now, like I said, when you look at sub 2 of that section 10, it says, who a professional now, who executes a judgment of court without following due process as provided for in the Sheriff and Civil Process Act or any other law commits an offense.
Okay. So that's specific.
It is specific here. And that will go back to give us the understanding of what a professional means here, even though it was not defined in the interpretation session. So it is a community reading of this thing that gave me. For me, I am not against it altogether. But then, if such a thing must be done, then they need to be specific. Is either you remove it, let it even be people that facilitate sale of land in the state are not even professional, so-called. They're just some individuals that felt, well, there's nothing to do now,
so
and we need to survive.
That is
any person, rather than saying a professional.
Okay.
Any person. This session is good, but to the extent that you remove the word professional, let it be any person. Anybody can be involved. If you look at that session, contractual does not mean that prepares an agreement. Okay. Do you get the point now? We know it is lawyers that prepare agreements. Do you get the point now? But when you say somebody facilitates a contractual agreement between the line, then it is not a professional.
Well, some also feel that this bill targets expansionist tendencies of community leaders. Interestingly, at that public hearing, you find traditional rulers present, their community leaders, opinion holders present at that public hearing. Do you think this bill has a tendency or the capacity, so to say, to deal with such tendencies among community leaders and those who have the control over landed properties somehow?
Yes, it does, but it is not only targeted at the traditional rulers. It is targeted at those that we call Omonile.
Well, I'm not talking about targeting them. I'm talking about targeting the expansionist
tendencies of
exactly.
Those. Of course, it is one of those. Then let us also not think it is just those people that want to grab land at all costs and all of that. There are even some that, when you also look at some other provisions there, you will see that there are other persons that their activities has also been curtailed by this law. Where you see someone who will claim that, oh, this land is in our vicinity, and before you can even start construction work, you must pay a certain amount of money. It also targets them. So I will also not want to stay here and say that the thing is targeted only at the expansionist tendencies of the traditional.
No, we're not saying only. I'm only asking if you feel this bill, when it becomes law, will it indeed be able to deal with expansionist tendencies? Because when you look at it, many governors are coming out hard to say, look, I do not appreciate these expansionist tendencies among traditional rulers, among community leaders, Olus, Abales, and all of those things, that there must be a way around it, not just in Ondo State, in very many other states like that. Will it be like this when it becomes law? Deal with that? Because the word of mouth is not as powerful as the law.
Of course, it will be able to deal with that.
Now, but you also agree with me that the problem with Nigeria is not the want of law, but the implementation of say. Yeah. How serious is the Ondo State government? Do you think the Ondo State government is in the implementation of this law? I read to you something that came from the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice on this matter. He did say that those unlawfully acquiring government lands, private properties, or fraudulently selling same land to multiple buyers must rethink their actions immediately. The government is fully committed to enforcing the law and will take decisive action against violators. Yes. Now, who are these trespassers into government properties, except those who really know the workings of government?
Wow. Yes, you have said this. Except those who are into government. But I will also say they are not only.
Okay.
It's not only those,
so who are those
that are in government. Even the traditional rulers. Lands that have been acquired for long. You will just see some, before you know what is happening, a layout is out, they tag it ceded land. So layout, being ceded land to, none of those things. They are happening. But this is also not happening without the active participation or input of those in government.
Complicity.
Complicity.
Okay.
Yes, they are. So it will also be able to curtail that. And of course, I will also suggest at this level, even though I've not been asked to do that, that they also look at the way and manner land are being dealt with, or land transaction generally in Ondo State.
Okay.
That's part of our input anyway in our own position paper. We are looking at a way where, because some of these issues are also coming up because of the way and manner we alienate land in Ondo State today. Where somebody has sold acres of land or even hectares, the only document he will give you is a sworn affidavit. In law, an affidavit does not confer title in land. But we just discovered that this is flying everywhere here in Ondo State. And this needs to be done. This is part of our own addition to this law. And I do hope the House will look at our position and bring it in. Although we suggested the removal of some sections, but after I had submitted our position paper, I read through those sections, I discovered that, they are good for what it
So will you be reaching out to the assembly? Now you've read through those sessions and they could be retained?
Obviously, I am trying hard to do that, and I will still do that.
Okay. Now let's also look at one other thing there. It was clearly stated by the Attorney General that only legally constituted authorities have the right to adjudicate land matters in the state.
Yes.
And many will ask you, so who are these authorities? Some would say traditional rulers are the closest to the people, and in fact they will tell you all the land belongs to the king.
I think
Oba Badori Ombobo and all of those things. So how well do we clearly delineate this matter to say, look, these are actually the legal authorities in dealing with land matters?
I think the State Attorney General is clear in that statement. The legally authorized or constituted authority is the court system. Do you get the point?
Yeah,
Look, in fact, thank you, you read this portion of his speech there. I was there anyway. I listened to him. Now you discover that some of these traditional rulers, in the name of resolving dispute in their palaces and all of that, in fact, I will not mention them here. I've seen an instance where a traditional ruler, in his personal effort to resolve land dispute, we did not know he was targeting the larger part of that land for himself, and he successfully did that. Well, we are still on it, and we hope we will be able to get that one resolved. So the only authority, by that speech of the Honorable Attorney General, I respect him so much, is the court system. If you feel aggrieved that this land belongs to you, you don't need to use self-help to take possession. Go to the court system. And that's why part of the title is violent. Long title. Violent and fraudulent conduct. So I think it's high time we began to sanitize the system so that it can only work. Can work for every one of us.
Well, you're a legal practitioner of no mean standing. So I'd like to know what your counsel will be to government, especially in its plan to set up a task force to implement this. Is it really right, or should it be still the duty of the conventional security operatives to deal with? Why set up a task force? Do you agree with setting up a task force?
Well, in our position paper, which I submitted yesterday, I am personally against that.
Okay.
When you look at the provision of section 13 and 14, it said there is established a task force unit in the state which shall be responsible for the enforcement of the provisions of this law. Now, section 14, the power to arrest under this law shall be vested in the task force unit established under this law and any other law enforcement unit / agency in the state.
And any other
law enforcement unit or agency in the state.
Okay. Does that then make it all-inclusive?
My fear is the word task force.
Okay.
Although I've had discussion with some of my colleagues, senior colleagues, and they felt they are comfortable with this provision, but personally, I'm not comfortable with it. Now, when you establish a law, you have made the law. Now, you have also created a task force. We are all living witnesses of the various task forces that have been in existence in the time past. So, for me, to what extent are we creating another state police within the system? Task force. Look at it. They say they are the only set of persons that can make arrest under this law. So for me, task force. If task force is to be co-opted into executing court judgment, because in fact part of my interaction with some of my colleagues was that if possession becomes problem, writ of possession, warrant of possession have been granted, have been signed by the court believe have mobilized to go to the site, but they are met with daredevil individuals on the land. So this law is also addressing those areas. So if we have such a confrontation making the arrest, I'm afraid, will the task force be fully armed to teeth like the conventional Nigerian police force, the Nigerian army, or even our own Amotekun? So if task force, I wouldn't know the nature. Perhaps the legislative are thinking of drawing up the military, the task force now, of course. Somebody said, well, they are going to involve some professional...
Perhaps like a joint security task force?
Something like that. But then we still need to be very careful. Because I am afraid if we begin to say this law, specifically now, offense has been created in this law. Can't the police investigate? Can't even Amotekun investigate? So if task force... Now, where task force who are not even uniform men have gone somewhere, then how do we even... Private citizens, don't be surprised. Task force will soon become so powerful that we become victims of their activities. For me, I have suggested that these two sections be removed. If offenses have been created and you have defined offenses and a special court will be this, once court has given an order, somebody has been convicted or somebody has been said to have done something wrong, then the normal process of court judgment enforcement should follow. That is my own view. So that we don't embrace this law, hook, line, and sinker, and we are soon thereafter faced with the consequences of the activities of the task force.
So in your opinion, it should be the duty...
We enlarge or expand the scope of the Amotekun law.
Could it be a thinking that these conventional security outlets are already
saturated,
overwhelmed
with
the level of criminalities we have in society that they are dealing with? If you are bringing this on their neck again, will the neck break?
Yeah, well, in specific time, I would say police is overwhelmed.
Okay.
Amotekun is there. It's our own creation.
It's not yet overwhelmed?
For me, they are doing their best, but I wouldn't know if they are overwhelmed. But I also know that they are at their best. Okay. They are their best. So it won't be out of place. Rather than, well, task force, I am afraid of task force in simple terms.
You would rather that Amotekun law be tinkered with to...
Be tinkered with, so that after all, what is the essence of their law? When you look at it, what was the mischief before they were established? Is it not to cover our territorial distance? It still has to do with land. So it can be tinkered with, expanded a bit to accommodate this. But if offenses have been created generally, do we get the point now? Then some security outfits, a particular security outfit will be saddled with the responsibility of investigating it. Look at section 11, sub 1. A person shall not write frivolous, unwarranted petition to any law enforcement agency, knowing such claims contained in the petition to be false. A lot of offenses have been created here. That's just the point I'm making now. Then, the task force also be investigating if they are to enforce the provision of the law? Can they also begin to investigate? So perhaps they create an outlet for them where we'll be dropping petitions and the likes. For me, it will be proliferation of security outfit. In fact, I use the word state police, state police or policing in the system. The policing system in the system, within the system. That's just the way I've seen it. Yes.
But before we leave this matter,
Yes,
would you rather that these sections, if they're carefully looked into, might be a way of ensuring or establishing collaboration between the task force and the conventional security agencies, looking at what you just also read out in section 11 of this bill?
If it is collaboration they're actually looking at, it has always been like that in the time past. Even without, where the governor feels that something needed to be done, he established set-ups on task force, usually headed by the police officers or, let me say, conventional uniform men. Now, but in this case now, they said the person that has power to make arrests under this law is the task force. Do you get the point?
Very well.
Then, if they are also looking at collaboration, then I think the provision should state so.
Well, there's a proposition in the bill yet to become law for 10-year jail term for land grabbers. To what extent do you agree with that proposition?
My brother, I think I agree with that. I agree with that. You can't tell me. In fact, there's even a particular provision, I think it should be section 9 or thereabout, where somebody will sell somebody's property. Perhaps he has authority to manage and he decides to sell. I think he was given 5 years imprisonment. Of course, there's also a 100% payment of the sum as fine. Is liable on conviction to fine not exceeding 100% of the value of the property or to imprisonment for 5 years. This very provision, for me, is good. But, I mean, also, there should be reparation, compensation to the victim of such an offense. For example, a property is kept in my care, I have sold it out to someone without the authority of that person. Somebody has parted with his money. While the law looks at trying to curtail my excesses as a fraudulent individual, then we should also look at the victim of the offense, who innocently, without notice, has parted with his money. So now, that of course, we also tinkered with this provision. I hope they will diligently look at it anyway.
How all-encompassing was the public hearing held by the House of Assembly on this bill, looking at the representation and also the topical conversation at that time?
I would say that there was a large attendance at that hearing, but I would have still loved, if I'm asked, that they should still conduct another one. You know why?
But just for me, it's not about large turnout. It's about representation.
That's what I'm saying.
Well
even some of the people there, perhaps you were there that day, some of the groups that were invited could not come with their prepared position papers. Someone like me, for the first time, I was seeing that law in the hall that day. Although I was told it has been forwarded to us and all of that, we only saw the letter inviting us, calling us for the public hearing. I have never cited that law.
The bill?
Yes. I've never cited the law until I got, the bill until I got to the hearing. But within the short time, I was able to go through and also make my input. And like I told you earlier, we have a committee in place already that is doing something. So what I've just done is just to tap from what they are already proposing. So if they want this thing, we can always harmonize the position and all of that. But for me, the representation that day, I wouldn't know. No, I even asked whether some professionals were there, and they said yes, they were invited. But many of the people invited have not really put up their position. But if another one could be held, because earlier, if you look at the letter, a date was earlier scheduled, then it was brought back or forward. That must have also occasioned why people could not come with their written position papers. It won't be out of place if they can still...
Like they would say that ignorance of the law is no excuse. And if that would happen, there should also be proper enlightenment of the people, proper sensitization of the people to understand what constitutes land grabbing. what and what offenses as far as land management is concerned. For the purpose of this conversation,
yes,
and from drinking from the fountain of the benefit that you have actually seen the bill, what and what should people avoid so that they don't go against all of this? It's not yet law, so to say. It's still a bill, but then they say someone with a very deep eye will start crying from afar.
From afar, yeah. Yes, I think what the people should begin to look at now. One, in the interpretation session, they have defined who an agent is, who have access. They've also defined the word building, construction activities, encroachment, landed property, and the likes, and even state. Now, when you look at the definition or the interpretation section of that law, you will now discover that it is not only vacant land now. That when you just go, somebody is building his house, you felt you are the landlord of that environment. You say they must stop work. Before you know what is happening, they seize their implement or tools and all of that. This set of people should also be careful now, because it is now becoming a thing of the past. By the time this law, this bill is passed into law. Then when you also look at it, this association now, they have their association, you have engaged an artisan, particularly maybe the one that is to do the roofing. His colleagues are here. Because he has not paid his due, he cannot work. If you come, access, they say means right to enter or make use of any part of any site, building or property. So when you come, you do not have access. So you become a violator of this provision. So those associations...
So associations must also be careful.
They should be careful at this level now. They should be careful. Construction activities is going, roofing, repairs, decking, fencing, and other building works, restoration or improvement. These are things.
So any issue they have with their members of the resort that
they should go to the association house.
Not on the site.
Don't come to the site now. So you can now also know that those that are the owners of the land, in quote now, you should also be very careful when they are not the one doing the construction there. I use the owners of the land in quote now, the Omoniles.
Personally, I repeat it.
So they should just be very careful. They should tread with care. Then when you also talk about encroachment, of course, the word encroachment means entry into another's property without right or permission, trespass, violation, intrusion, and usurpation, and all of this. So these people should begin to be careful, to begin to tread with care. Otherwise, they become violators of this law, and the long hand of the law will catch up with them.
What should therefore be the roles, especially at this pre-implementation period? What should be the roles that community leaders, religious leaders, opinion holders, the media, and indeed all agents of socialization should play in ensuring that people don't fall victim? Because we'll go back to it. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Thank you so much. Of course, this is part of what is expected now at this stage of the bill. Sensitization. Some of the traditional rulers were there. They've been asked to go back to their community. In fact, even my colleagues, immediately I got this law, I put it on our WhatsApp platform of over 800 or thereabout members. So they are already reading. We're already sensitizing people. We're already telling the people, they can see it, that there's something in the offing that must attract their attention. So sensitization, publicity, and all of that. And we don't mind. Whenever we are called upon as NB, we will still come to elucidate more. That is just the point. Sensitization, sir.
How well would lawyers, I'm asking this because you're the chairman of NBA in Korea, and so how well would the NBA, let me put it that way, be cooperative with the legislature and indeed the Indo State government in ensuring the success of this bill when it eventually becomes a law?
Yeah, my brother, we've started that. Immediately, like I told you, in less than 24 hours, I came out with our position paper. And I've also add one or two things there to also help. Like in the definition, in the interpretation session, the word court was never defined. Then the word force or self-help was also not defined. I have been able to put all those ones there. We are going to cooperate with them. And I have also, in our position paper, tried to look at the law holistically. And also that the state should begin to think on how to generate more income from the land. Look, in Ondo State today, I've just said...
There is more income from the land?
From the lands.
Aside the land use charge? Or you're not aware there's a land use charge?
The land use charge is there. It's an income for the state. But what I mean, or what I intend to pass across now at this level, is that a lot of transactions are going on in the states that is not generating income for the states.
Such as?
You asked me, thank you so much. Those transactions that are taking place, the government is only waiting at the table or at the stage of where you feel like processing a CFO. That is when the government begins to make money from land transactions. And
where should they be waiting?
Thank you. That is why, as part of our position paper, we have also suggested that there should be an aspect or a dedicated section of this law where you streamline mode of alienation of land within the state. The era of somebody has sold hectares of land, and the only document he gives to you is affidavit. And then someone will issue family receipt. Receipt is just an evidence of money had and received. It does not pass title in land. So now, where there is no, there's a sale of land agreement or a deed of assignment, as the case may be. So with this, already the government can start generating money by ensuring that all sale of land agreement or deed of assignment are duly stamped by the Board of Internal Revenue. Yeah, you pay a certain percentage there.
Would that not be a burden on the people at the time when economic hardship is biting so hard?
They have the money to buy the land, sir.
Did you know how they got the money? Are you sure that you are aware that many people had to go get loans to get their land? Do you know that many people could not even feed well, let alone buy land, and then they find a way of raking money here and there, doing a lot of jobs before they're able to buy land?
And brother, they have also bought land, and they are victim of what this law is trying to set. What would they do? You go obtain loan, you buy land in millions sometimes,
and then they get the CFO. After the CFO, you are still injecting or suggesting something else?
Look, the point I'm making here is clear, sir. It is that now, if, for example, you are asking
me more burden
on the people,
already economically disadvantaged people.
It is not a matter of burden. It is a matter of protecting the right. The sweat of this individual is gone ahead to get loan somewhere, isn't it? And now he's bought land. All he's giving is affidavits. In fact, some people will tell you, some seller or vendors will tell you, there's no problem. If there's problem, we will be the one to go to court. Not you that have bought the land. Do you get the point now? And by the time you begin to have problem, of course somebody has gone to obtain loan. He's still repaying the loan back, maybe for the next 2 years. Where does he have the money to even fight to protect or secure the land? So his land is gone, he's paying loan back here. But with this, once you you purchase your land, you got an agreement prepared by a lawyer, you go ahead to stamp duty. The government owns the duty to help you protect that land. Don't forget, the law is properties protection bill. So by the fact that, there's a stamp duty here, it will also fast track the process of securing a CFO. And you know it is Mr. Governor that will sign it, or his assigned representative. So the fact that you have a CFO in your hand, or you have a duly stamped deed, which is also admissible should there be any event. And don't also forget that any lawyer that will prepare an agreement for you must be able to chronicle the history of the land in what we call the reciter. Do you get the point now?
Very well.
So if you are selling land for me, I should be able to ask you, how did you get to this land? Oh, I inherited it from my father. Oh, your father had how many wives? He said he has 3 wives, but this is my own. How has it become your own? Oh, after my father died, it was partitioned. This was given to me. Please, can I see the document with which it was partitioned? These are questions people don't ask. But when you come to a lawyer, he'll be able to do all of this for you. And having got all this history, you have gone ahead to stamp duty it. Should you have problem on that land, somebody is somewhere that will have to come and explain if it was fraudulent.
Okay, so then in short, you're saying it's not like saying more burden on the people.
It is not more burden, but to secure. Yes.
I just did that so that
yes.
have.
So in my own view, I have even told in our paper, I've said that sum too will have to be agreed. It mustn't be such an exorbitant this thing. If you have a document that has been stamped by the Internal Revenue, it's a straight way to you to come to Ministry of Lands for your CFO. Don't forget, it is at the level you are paying for CFO that you will pay a substantial sum as whatever. And it is that sum that's even discouraging many to come. And that's why the activities